This video is going to be covering both standard parachute insertion operations as well as Halo parachute insertion operations in Arma 2's Ace mod from the perspective of a standard airborne infantryman. For the purpose of this video, I've put myself inside of an AI-controlled C-130J that's currently flying at 300 meters in the air. In my inventory, I have the standard T-10 parachute pack. What's important to note about this parachute pack is that you cannot deploy it manually. It will deploy as soon as you exit the aircraft automatically and cannot be cancelled or cut after it's been deployed. During standard operations, the commander or the pilot of the aircraft would tell you red light as they're approaching the drop zone and green light when it's time to jump out. Or, in most situations in Arma, they'd simply say, "Alright, jump out." In which case, with your parachute equipped on your back, you would press jump out in the scroll wheel. Upon jumping out, you see your parachute deploys automatically. I didn't have to touch anything for it to do that. And you slowly drift down to the earth. Now, normally these type of parachute insertions are utilized at a fairly low altitude due to the fact that they're completely uncontrollable after you jump out and your parachute deploys, and you fall for quite some time, giving the enemy the perfect opportunity to take you out before you even touch the ground. Let's skip ahead a little bit. After touching down, you can see my parachute laying there on the ground. Depending on your operation and if there's time, you could normally come up to the parachute and press your ACE interaction key, which is the right Windows key, and it'll give you the option to pack your parachute, which would basically just put the parachute back into the backpack that you got it from, and it would be hard to see from the air. Now, sometimes parachutes happen to land on bushes or land in a tree in a weird position that causes it to glitch so that you can't pack the parachute. Unfortunately, this happened in this case. You may have heard of Halo insertion operations before, and aside from sounding and looking really cool, they actually serve a very specific purpose for accomplishing a certain task. Let's say, for instance, you've got enemy anti-air in the area, and you have to get a small task force on the ground via aerial insertion. While you obviously couldn't do a helicopter insertion, this is a perfect opportunity for the Halo insertion method. Halo stands for High Altitude, Low Opening, and refers to the fact that you're exiting the airplane at a very high altitude, and then opening your parachute at a low altitude. The purpose of this is so that the aircraft carrying your task force can stay above enemy anti-air range, allowing units to exit the vehicle and deploy their parachutes at a very low altitude so that the units on the ground don't have enough time to get an accurate shot at them, or maybe not even see them at all through the trees, and the anti-air is completely ineffective against them. For the purpose of this demonstration, I've once again started myself in an AI-controlled C-130J, only this time we're approximately 6,000 meters in the air. While this may be a little high for your standard Arma 2 Halo insertion operations, I wanted to have enough time to demonstrate everything I needed on the way down. This time, in my gear, instead of the T-10 parachute, I have the MC5 parachute pack. This is the controllable parachute, similar to the one that you have in vanilla Arma. Although the operation of this one is quite different. When the pilot instructs you to, just like with the other parachute, you would jump out. Only this time, you look like this. Now, important keybind to note is Shift-K. It brings up this little meter on the side that shows you your altitude. Currently 2,590, and dropping fairly fast. This goes away after a few seconds, so just make sure you keep hitting it so that you can see it. You can control how you're falling with W and S, W to go faster down, S to slow down. You can see my stance indicator in the top right corner showing how I'm angled. Now, there's much debate about a good altitude to deploy from. I'm going to deploy for about 400 meters just to be safe and see how that goes. In order to deploy, use your mouse wheel and scroll over to pull ripcord and middle mouse button on it just like you're activating anything else. Except an important thing to note is it still takes quite a while for your parachute to open, just like with the other parachute. As you can see, chute opens. There we go. Now, this isn't the best place to deploy my parachute, obviously over the water. Should have thought that one through better. But for the purpose of this demonstration, it'll do fine. Then you can control your parachute using WASD, W to move forward quickly, S to slow down, D to move right, and A to move left. To demonstrate the use of a double halo jump, I've once again started the same scenario, only this time I'm aiming for a specific target, which will be this area right over here, East Station. I'm going to place a personal marker on it so I can see it on the map, because I don't have a GPS with me, or else normally you would use a GPS for this portion. When we're around the area, the pilot would tell us to jump out, as usual. Just a second. I think that's about as close as we're going to get. Jump out. Then immediately after exiting the aircraft, you deploy your ripcord. At this point, you adjust yourself so that you're just about over your target. Now, like I said, this would be much easier with a GPS, but I forgot all about that. So we're going to fly. We're just about over it. This is useful for quick operations where the pilot may not have a second chance to do another pass if you happen to miss the target. Alright, we're just about over it, and we're going to mouse wheel and cut shoot. Now we cut the parachute that was just holding us up. Check the altitude. We're still plenty good on altitude. Now luckily with the MC5 parachute pack, you actually get 2 parachutes. As you can see, I have the option to pull ripcord again. That's because I have a second emergency parachute or backup parachute, pointing nearly straight down at this point, so I can lose altitude pretty quickly. Alright, I have my target in sight, and I'm going to pull the ripcord for the second time. Chute opens just the same as before. As you can see, it says reserve parachute open. That means if I cut this chute, I'm not going to have another one. And at this point, some might say I opened my parachute a little too early, but that's just for the purpose of demonstration. I wouldn't want to look silly during this tutorial and smack my face into the ground. That about covers it for standard and Halo parachute insertion operations, so thanks for watching and have fun!